There's a man who's been standing in the same room for 80 years. He watches a boy lose his parents. He watches that boy become a myth. He watches the myth become a monster. And every single night, he cleans the blood off the floor, stitches the wounds, buries the secrets, and says nothing. His name is Alfred Pennyworth. And he is the most tragic figure in Gotham, not because he suffers, but because he chooses to, over and over again, until the day he dies. We celebrate Alfred as loyalty, as devotion, as the moral backbone of the Bat. But we never ask the question that matters. What kind of love requires a man to enable the self-destruction of the person he raised? What kind of duty demands you become an accomplice to a beautiful, endless suicide? This is not a story about a butler. This is a story about a man who confused love with imprisonment, and in doing so, became both captive and warden to a boy who never grew up. We've been told the story 1,000 times. The orphaned billionaire, the tragic night in Crime Alley, the transformation into the Dark Knight. And standing beside him, always, is Alfred, the steady hand, the voice of reason, the father Bruce Wayne never had. We call it noble. We call it selfless. We frame Alfred as the emotional anchor that keeps Batman from falling into the abyss, the one good man in a city of rot. But here's what we don't say. Alfred is the reason Bruce never heals. He is the single most important enabler in the entire mythology. Because every time Bruce puts on the cowl, every time he breaks his body for a city that doesn't even know his name, every time he crosses a line that should never be crossed, Alfred is there, not to stop him, but to make sure he survives long enough to do it again. Let's go back. Before the cape, before the symbol, when Bruce Wayne was just a kid with a hole in his chest the size of Gotham itself. The Waynes are dead. The boy is shattered. And Alfred, a former intelligence agent, a man trained to follow orders and bury emotion, makes a choice. He stays. He raises the boy. He becomes the only family Bruce has left. And in that moment, something shifts. Alfred stops being a servant. He becomes a mission. At first, it's innocent. He wants to protect Bruce. He wants to give him stability, structure, warmth. He wants to be the father Thomas Wayne can no longer be. But Bruce doesn't want warmth. Bruce wants vengeance. And Alfred, instead of pulling him back from the edge, hands him a grappling hook and says, "Be careful." Because here's the truth about Alfred. He doesn't just allow Bruce to become Batman. He architects it. He trains him. He funds him. He covers for him. He lies to the world on his behalf. When Bruce disappears for years to learn every combat discipline on Earth, Alfred says nothing. When Bruce returns with a plan to wage a one-man war on crime, Alfred doesn't call a therapist. He builds the Batcave. Every weapon, every vehicle, every contingency plan. Alfred is the infrastructure of the myth. And myths don't retire. They don't heal. They don't go to therapy. They destroy themselves slowly, beautifully, in the name of something bigger. And Alfred watches it happen. Night after night, year after year, decade after decade. He patches the wounds. He removes the bullets. He resets the broken bones. He watches Bruce limp back into the cave at dawn, barely conscious, barely human. And he never says, "Stop." He says, "You were reckless tonight, Master Wayne." As if recklessness is the problem. As if the problem isn't that Bruce is killing himself in installments and calling it justice. Here's the paradox. Alfred loves Bruce, truly, deeply, in a way that goes beyond duty or obligation. He would die for him. He has sacrificed every moment of his own life for him. But that love is poisoned by something darker, control. Because Alfred doesn't just serve Bruce, he needs Bruce to need him. He has built his entire identity around being indispensable to a man who is systematically destroying himself. And if Bruce ever stopped, if he ever healed, if he ever walked away from the cowl, what would Alfred be? Just a butler. Just a man who gave up his own life for someone else's trauma. And that's unbearable. So he enables, he rationalizes, he tells himself he's protecting Bruce, guiding him, keeping him human. But what he's really doing is making sure the war never ends. Because the war is the only thing that gives Alfred purpose. The war is the only thing that keeps Bruce close. And so the cycle continues. Bruce destroys himself, Alfred rebuilds him, and they both call it love. The most devastating part? Bruce knows. Deep down, he knows Alfred could stop him. One word from the man who raised him, one honest confrontation, one refusal to clean up the blood, and the whole thing falls apart. But Alfred never says it, and Bruce never asks him to, because they're both trapped in the same lie. The lie that this is necessary, that Gotham needs Batman, that the mission justifies the cost. But Gotham doesn't need Batman. Bruce needs Batman. And Alfred needs Bruce to need Batman. It's a closed loop of mutual destruction disguised as heroism. And the world celebrates it. We make movies about it. We write comics about it. We frame Alfred as the ultimate symbol of loyalty, of sacrifice, of unconditional love. But unconditional love doesn't mean standing by while someone you love slowly kills themselves. It means intervention. It means boundaries. It means saying, I love you too much to watch you do this anymore. Alfred never says that. He can't, because if he did, he'd have to confront the truth, that he's not Bruce's father, he's his accomplice. And every night Bruce puts on the cowl, Alfred is the one who holds the door open. Here's what haunts me about Alfred Pennyworth. He dies the way he lived, quietly, in service, without ever asking for himself. And Bruce mourns him the way he mourns everyone, by doubling down on the mission, by proving Alfred's sacrifice wasn't in vain, by becoming even more Batman, even more isolated, even more broken. And somewhere, in whatever version of an afterlife a man like Alfred ends up in, he watches, still, forever, because that's all he ever knew how to do. This is the tragedy of Gotham. Not the Joker, not Two-Face, not even Batman himself. It's the man in the mansion. The man who loved a boy so much, he let that boy disappear into a symbol and called it loyalty.